you can A/B test your negotiation strategies, your language, and see what works, what feels good to you, because it has to feel good to you, and just reiterating it and making it better. Hello, stereotype breakers, and welcome to yet another episode of the Meaningful Conversations podcast. Today's topic is how to get more confidence when negotiating. And I will be sharing my secret of how I gain my confidence when it comes to negotiation, because it's not something that you are born with, it's something that you can and need to build as a skill. This episode is going to be nice and short, and we're going to talk about, first of all, what is my secret to building confidence when negotiating in all different types of environments, then how I use it, how I've used it, how I use it now, and finally, how you can take advantage of this technique as well. But before we go ahead and dive into my secret head first, subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed already, and to this podcast on the podcasting platform of your choice. If this is a topic that you're interested in, we create a lot of content that will be helpful and useful for you. So make sure you subscribe, turn on those notifications so that you don't miss out on any goodness, any value that you could be getting by being subscribed. All right, and now I am ready to share my biggest secret to negotiating with confidence and building that confidence muscle when negotiating. And are you ready for it? Drum roll. It is all about practicing. Okay, maybe you're a little disappointed by this answer because it's pretty clear. However, there is a nuance to my practicing. The nuance to my practicing is that I had it all written out as responses before I ever said them out loud, because I have to add some context here. I am incredibly shy, and confidence doesn't come naturally to me. And finally, knowing my worth has always been a big struggle for me. I'm still on a journey of figuring out what my worth is, etc. And so negotiating has always been a very, very tough subject. Very shy introvert who doesn't know her self-worth, who is not very good with words, who was not very good with words. I have developed my skills over time. You get the picture. I was coming from a place where I really could not negotiate. And so now I have built up my skills to the point where I negotiate pretty well, and I negotiate all the time. Not pretty well, I negotiate well, all right? Okay. I'm not gonna this is my self-worth issues coming through right now. But basically, the way I started negotiating was when I started my business and I started working with clients. And working as a content creator, a lot of clients would come in at a very low rate, and I would negotiate them up, and that has built up my negotiation muscle like crazy. At first it was very difficult, and then I have come up with canned responses, essentially responses that would auto-populate when I would type in a little code. So I set up this Chrome extension that would auto-populate certain responses that I could then adjust according to the context, according to who I'm talking with, the problem, the brand, etc. And so that I didn't even realize at the time when I set it up, because the goal for me was to automate a lot of my email communication, because I was getting a lot of emails. I was doing so many different things in my business. And, this was one of the things that I could invest time into so that I don't have to spend as much time typing out all of those answers. What I didn't understand at the time was that this was going to help me negotiate and learn how to do that in person, having done that over email. Very interesting. So, the reason why it was so instrumental and why I urge you to do the same thing and to start practicing, even if it's just by email, the reason for it is because it allows you to put into words something that you're afraid of saying. You're putting into words, and there it is on paper. Then it allows you to hone your language, understand what you feel comfortable with, what you don't feel comfortable with, and adjust it over time as you repeat it. And of course, everybody has their own different situations. You might not be negotiating over email. However, you can write it out and you can play around with the language, seeing what you feel comfortable saying until you figure out what is the phrase, what are your go to phrases and go to language, essentially. Because once you create that go to language, once those canned responses start living up here in your head, it will be so much easier to think of them on the spot or to adjust them on the spot because you have your go to language that you have practiced. And it starts on paper, it starts with pretty, low risk. It is here, you're not seeing the person, you're just writing it all out for yourself. The next step is to send it or to practice it in your head, imagining yourself saying it. Reiterate that text, readjust it so that it feels right. You feel comfortable and confident saying it out loud and then practicing it. Over time, you will build that muscle. I need to stress this. It will take time. It will take time to feel confident and comfortable saying those things. And it will take time to adjust the language of your, as I call them, canned responses to feel comfortable so that they feel comfortable, so that you feel confident saying them. However, it is essential and it is part of building that muscle. Confidence is a muscle. Negotiation is a muscle. They're all skills that we need to build over time. And sure, maybe some people have a better predispositions to them. I feel like my husband has been blessed with a lot of it. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that others can't learn them. Exhibit A here. This is me. I have built it up from coming from a very low skill set, low level of skills in that department. So if I could do it, you can do it for sure. And I have created a list of canned responses, some of the responses that I use in my communication day to day, some of the responses that I have prepared for myself for the future, just, rehearsing certain situations and scenarios in my head, because that's key, right? Rehearsing those scenarios, going through them, writing it out, and then practicing it so that the language makes sense and helps you make it automatic and make it more natural when you're actually one on one in front of a person. So I have created a list that you can get for free using the link in the description. That list will give you a baseline. It will, first of all, give you certain scenarios that you may have not thought through. Of course, not all the scenarios that you may be going through life right now have been encapsulated in this document. However, it gives you a range of different scenarios and it gives you something to work with. Make a copy of that document. So that document you can't edit, but you can make a copy to make it your own, or you can download it as a doc, like a Word doc, and you can start editing it. You can start adjusting it. You can add additional situations and additional scenarios, etc. However, this is something that you can use to start practicing negotiation. Again, I will outline the steps. First, think of the scenarios and write down the text. Write down the text that you will respond, that you will use to respond with. Then practice it in your head and start sending it in emails if you are able to, if you have email based negotiation. Finally, start saying it out loud. You can start saying it out loud to your friends just to become more comfortable with, saying those words out loud, because again, it will take time. It will take practicing to actually be okay with saying those words. And the more you do it, the better it will become. And finally, use those words, reiterating the language, reiterating how you say them every single time, because at the end of the day, approach it as a scientist. A/B testing, which is basically a marketing term for comparing two different approaches to a situation and seeing the results. It's normally done with campaign analytics and comparing different campaigns and tweaking a little something and seeing how the audience responds, how the conversion rates end up performing, etc. But you can A B test your negotiation strategies, your language, and see what works, what feels good to you, because it has to feel good to you, and just reiterating it and making it better. So I think I have said the words reiterating and practicing at least 1,000 times during this episode. So I'll probably wrap this up because I know you have gotten the picture. I don't need to say the words reiterate and practice anymore. So, my call to action, since we're using marketing terminology in this video, my call to action for you is the following. Go in the description, use the link below to get access to that document with the canned responses that I have pre prepared for you. And I will be adding more and more into this document as we go. Get access to it, make a copy of that document, and start practicing. Start today because this will give you an extra day to practice, an extra day to start growing your skills. Super curious to hear your negotiation stories, and if you have any go-to tips and tricks, leave them in the comments below. And of course, like this video and share it with a friend who needs some confidence when it comes to negotiating, whether it's negotiating their salary, negotiating with clients, negotiating with an airline about getting access to a lounge. I'm actually gonna have to call an airline tomorrow and see how that goes. I will be writing out my scenarios, if they say this, if they say that, just to get comfortable, because right now I'm not very comfortable with that particular scenario. So just FYI, I'm still doing this. It's a constant work in progress. But yeah, let me know what you thought about this video and share it with a friend who might be negotiating something soon. We can also be friends on other social media. You can find us as Stereotype Breakers. Have a wonderful time the day you're currently experiencing.